Boundary Boss by Terry Cole. The essential guide to talk true, be seen, and finally live free. Hey there, legendary souls. Welcome to another book review. Today we're reviewing Boundary Boss. Boundaries are such a buzzword these days, and for good reason, because when we know where we stop and another person begins, we can actually form healthy interpersonal dynamics. And I don't know about y'all, but I need people, and I choose to have people in my life. So having healthy interpersonal dynamics is really freaking important. The review. So I grew up in a chaotic and very authoritarian ruled type of home. So I developed disorganized boundaries as a child, all the way through being a young adult. Therapy has freaking changed my life. Whew, thank you. Thank you to all the therapists that I've ever worked with. Ooh, my goodness. So depending on how you grew up, you may also have disorganized boundaries. And something that I was realizing as I was reading this book is that we oftentimes develop those disorganized boundaries through this concept of being a good person, which has all these intersections with so many different identities that we hold. The me and the we of it all gets muddled. When I get more preoccupied with or in resistance to how you feel about me, how you interact with me, what your needs, desires, and preferences are over what I need, what I desire, and what my preferences are, we now have an unhealthy interpersonal dynamic. And I thought about how this gets created through the lens of gender. Terry Cole focuses mainly on femmes in her book, so it got me thinking about the trope of the good girl. You've heard of this, right? Whether this femme is Black, Indigenous, a person of color, or white, whether this femme is non-binary, trans, or cis, there is a certain prescription of how they are supposed to show up. They are not allowed to speak directly because then they are considered harsh, cold, scary, or a bitch. They're not allowed to express their feelings with the intensity and the full breadth and range that they experience them because people don't take them seriously or their mental health is questioned. They're also usually not allowed to feel hurt or grief and need to take time and space to process it in their own ways and at their own rate, because they tend to be called upon to do a lot of care work in family dynamics, in relationships, in institutions, and there are places and people and situations that they tend to have to show up to, even when they're not doing so hot themselves. And all this is just expected of femmes. So I recommend this book if you are cis female identified and everything I just said, you're like, yup. I recommend this book if you were socialized femme before anybody asked you how you thought about gender or what it is that you believe when it comes to how you experience the world. I recommend this book for trans women because there may be a sense of community that y'all find in terms of the inner workings and the pressure that all folks who are women feel or who have such a deep connection to womanhood and femness feel. I recommend this book if you feel like you've had relationships in your life that have destroyed you. I recommend this book if you feel like you've had relationships and they've ended and you felt like you had to be fine. I recommend this book if you struggle with vulnerability. Actually, I don't know if there's anyone I don't recommend this book for because boundaries are really important. They help us understand ourselves, and we are an ever-evolving, magnificent creation. We are ever expanding like the universe. And remember, in the beginning, we need people. We choose people. We choose to be in relationship with people. So if one individual is an ever-expanding universe and two individuals are ever-expanding universes to themselves, when you come together, just two, imagine 10 or 50. Everybody needs boundaries. Everybody needs boundaries. So read this book, show up to it, take your time with it, do the exercises, and get to know yourself a little bit deeper. Because when you know you, then you get to choose whomever you want to share the parts of you that you discover with. My takeaways. Boundaries are really important to our evolution as adults. When we were kids, there were all of these limitations imposed upon us. Things that we couldn't do, things that we weren't allowed to say, contexts we weren't allowed to do them or say them in, that didn't always make sense to us. And ways that we were supposed to act based on somebody else's perception of what was good or acceptable. As adults, the only limitations that there are for us are from the cosmos, in terms of divine timing, are from another person that we interact with and engaging with their preferences, their needs, and their boundaries, and from within. Reading this book, I realized it's better to have boundaries, personal boundaries, than to be enacting self-limiting beliefs. There's gonna be limitations somehow. Better to have boundaries and know what they are and choose them. There are lots of different ways to set boundaries. And if you don't know where to start, this book actually has a few templated examples for language. Setting boundaries is not selfish. It is an act of self-care and therefore an act of self-love. Some people respond well to our boundary setting. And as Bell Hooks says in All About Love, when we reveal our true selves to our partner and find that this brings healing rather than harm, we make an important discovery. That intimate relationship can provide a sanctuary from the world of facades, a sacred place, a sacred space where we can be ourselves as we are. There are also people who don't respond too well to our boundaries. They respond very poorly. This can be disorienting, very painful, and also very clarifying. Boundaries are not what push people away. Clear, healthy, and directly spoken boundaries are not what push people away. Boundaries help us clarify the path that we are choosing in our lives and the ways that we will allow for others to treat us who are in our lives. Boundaries help clarify the path. And there are some people and situations and energies that can't go where we are going. We get to choose our path, and other people get to choose theirs too. This is the review of Boundary Boss by Terry Cole. This is Ada Ad Astra taking you from the moon and to the stars, and I will catch y'all in the future. Take really good care. Bye.